What's up, everybody? So today I want to talk about the balanced aquarium. As you can see behind me, I have two very nice planted aquariums that he, they're kind of opposites. This one is very heavily stocked, and this one is barely stocked, and yet I can pretty much keep them exactly the same at a balance. And as I said, I want to talk about the balanced aquarium. Both of these are balanced, even though they're totally different. And they're about the same, like they're both chalked with plants, folks. Like, both just completely chalked with plants. One does not have more than the other. This one has a big Anubias in it. Some of you might say, oh wow, that thing's not doing anything, it's super slow grower. But it's one of the biggest plants in the tank, and it's the powerhouse of the tank. That's right, folks. This thing is like the goddess of this tank, and this thing uses a ton of energy within the aquarium. I don't even know if energy is the right thing to call it, but this thing can kill off plants just because it's so big and it uses so much stuff. And plus, you got to think, in this tank there's a lot of Anubias as well, so it equals about a big Anubias, So these are pretty much equal. There's a ton of Hygrophila, there's Lotus, there's some Sag and stuff I'm getting going here. But these are both very chalked, chalk-filled, aquariums full of plants. And, this tank has a ton of fish, and this tank only has a few shrimp and some plecos in it. So here's what I want to talk about. Both of them are in a balance, like I've said already, and I keep repeating myself here because it's so key. They're in a balance, folks. You can have a lightly stocked tank, or you can have a heavily stocked tank. It's all about the work, doing the work. All about it. You want to have a tank full of fish? Do the work. Do the water changes weekly. I do 50% water changes, but it depends on your water, how often you might do it, or how much you do it. I don't really want to get into that right now, but do your water changes. Water changes are so key. If you want to have a lot of fish, do a lot of water changes. And that's something that I think is so key. In all my tanks, I do big water changes as much as I can. And that's how I can get away with it. The second thing is plants. Plants are so key. They help out in so many ways. They help oxidize the water. They help keep the water clean. They make it look natural. They make the fish feel at home. They're just so key. Plus, they just look straight awesome. They're just amazing looking for the aquarium. So what I really want to get at is, it depends on how much work you want to do, because both of these tanks are balanced. This tank needs a lot more work than this tank, because this tank has a lot more fish. Now, I'm not saying that this is for every single aquarium, because every aquarium is different. You could be running 3 filters on this tank, then you don't have to do as much work because there's a higher bioload to offset the waste in this tank. And I'm not sure if bioload is actually the correct terminology, because people could take it as different things. The bioload could be actually the fish of the tank, the biological load. But that's also the bacteria, because it's also biological. It's alive. If that makes sense to you all. I just wanted to say that. So for this tank, I don't need to do near the amount of work as I have to do with this tank. And that's kind of the whole basis of this video, is pretty much water changes, because water changes keep your aquarium balanced. Now, there's lots of other things you can do. You can use filters, bigger filters, bigger volume filters. And that's something else I want to get into, really, is that it doesn't really matter the filter you have, as long as it runs well and it works for you. It's all about the surface area. The more surface area you can have to house the bacteria that are going to process the ammonias, the better balanced your aquarium is going to be. you know, so I think this is just a really key, you know, topic, and I'm not even really sure what I'm gonna name this because there's just so many different things to talk about. So I'm gonna kind of make this like a series, I think, and tell me how you guys like this video, because I kind of just rambled off. There's so many things. I think just the key thing about this entire video that you guys need to get is that if you want to have a balanced aquarium, people say balance, you know, there's like the plant balance, there's like the, you know, like the, you know, like the biological balance, like the fish load. The most important part is water changes, because the more water changes you do, the happier everything in your aquarium is going to be, and you know, the healthier your aquarium is going to be. So on that note, I just want to leave the camera and show you guys a few close-ups before I take off. And yeah, as you can see, this tank pretty much has no fish in it. This tank has a ton of fish. It has like how many angels? Like 5 or 6 angels, 2 discus, 2 plecos, I don't know, 40 or 50 schooling fish. A ton of fish in this tank, folks. And yet I have pretty much the exact same looking aquarium, you know, water-wise. Like, they're both very clean and healthy. It's all about the water changes, folks. So, on that note, peace out. Later.